pretty soon there, standing before us, was Beelzebub himself, looking quite startled at having been brought here, and he'd just been sitting at home having a cup of tea because the bowling ball was actually made of rubber, and so it caught fire very easily and burnt extremely fast, and the fumes were quite toxic for everyone. He was running out across the lawn with Johnny Cash running out after him, clutching the empty jar, absolutely livid with fury, of course. As of course you could have predicted, it turned out that this was a real alligator, not an inflatable one. But Jeff continued to ride it. He simply would refuse to admit that he'd made a mistake. And the number of injuries and wounds was quite astonishing, and even weeks later he denied that anything had happened, that anything was amiss when he came out of the hospital back into society. And this sort of thing happened so often, simply through the mistaking for a real animal for one which was rubberized and filled with compressed air. He did not know the difference. He never did. He never worked it out, nor did he admit that he had a problem. It was quite extraordinary. He was there with these lizards actually coming out of his mouth. There's 12, 13, 14 lizards of all different colours. I couldn't count the colours. And at that moment, Sammy Davis Jr. winked at me, you know. At least I think he did. I mean, it's always very difficult to tell with Sammy Davis, but you really have to commit to us. Bring the club down several times. Don't pay any attention to any sound that might be emerging, and that'll do the trick. And he said, well, if you don't tell, I won't. And I said, well, we'll never speak of this again. And he said, well, the fact that he was wearing a cape of that particular colour, it just went by them, you see. Completely went above their heads. And when he set fire to it, to his own cape, and he stood there simply, you know, ignoring what he himself had done, they felt obliged to ignore it too. And he did that kind of thing so often. And he ate the whole sandwich. Communism, because he claimed that communism was supposed to be the abolition of class, whereas all they did in Soviet Russia was abolish the middle one. And I said, well, I don't think you really understand. Let's get out of here. And I said, well, you can't run now. You're still inserted. And he said, oh, my goodness, I'd forgotten all about it. And when we sat down and counted them, there were 87 legs. And it turned out that 7 of them were made of papier-mâché. 5 of them were rubber. And a number of them were made from formed concrete. You know, so I said to Oswald, you can't shoot for toffee. Prove me wrong if you dare. And of course when I saw the headlines I was really... And he said there are worse things in life than being made to eat 27 Swiss rolls in less than 3 minutes. I said, well, give me an example. You know, give me an example right now and I'll accept your reasoning. And, you know, I'll just go to the hospital, I'll accept it, and when I come out, we'll never speak of it again. But he couldn't give me an example, and he never could, and I never forgave him. Just firing the rifle again and again in the same direction. He said, what the hell are you doing? And I said, well, this is how I learnt the alphabet. And we laughed about that. It was an extraordinary time, and I'm glad I knew him. I'm glad to have been a part of this project, which I'm sure will sink like a stone, like everything that I've been involved in throughout my beautiful life. Thank you for listening. Good night.